You don't have to be afraid. It's all right, little one. This is for you. You are the one. We have been waiting.
You're alive.
Thank the gods. I am beloved. Thank you.
People often say destiny announces itself with thunder. They were wrong. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like a starving creature standing alone beneath falling snow. Long before anyone called her the future Luna of the Black Moon Kingdom, Elara Ashwood was simply the rejected Omega no one wanted. Far beyond the borders of every known pack, hidden among the endless peaks of Frostpine Mountain, she lived inside a weathered cabin built with her own hands. It wasn't much. The roof creaked whenever winter wind swept through the valley. The stone chimney leaned slightly after every heavy snowfall. The wooden porch had been repaired so many times that no two planks looked alike. Still, it was hers. No alpha could order her away. No elder could remind her of her place. No whisper followed her through the trees. Every morning began before sunrise. She collected water from the mountain creek. Checked the rabbit snares hidden beneath the pines. Gathered herbs growing between ancient stones. When evening came, she wrote quietly inside her mother's worn leather journal before sitting beside the fireplace with a simple bowl of stew. It was a lonely life. But loneliness was kinder than humiliation. Sometimes, while watching the flames dance across the stone hearth, memories returned without invitation. The moon bond ceremony. The sacred moon tree. Hundreds of familiar faces watching in silence. Marcus Hale standing only a few feet away. She remembered believing fate had finally chosen happiness. Instead, she heard the words that changed everything. I reject Elara Ashwood as my destined mate. The bond shattered before it could ever form. Pain flooded every part of her body. Yet the greatest wound wasn't the broken bond. It was the silence afterward. No one defended her. No one questioned Marcus. No one reached out a hand as she struggled to stand. Even the children looked away. 3 days later, she packed what little she owned and walked into the mountains without saying goodbye. No one followed. No one asked her to stay. At first, survival was difficult. The abandoned cabin had broken windows. The well had collapsed. Wild animals wandered through the empty rooms. For weeks, she survived on roots, berries, and whatever fish she could catch in the icy stream. Little by little, she rebuilt everything. She repaired the roof. Replaced the broken door. Planted vegetables beside the porch. The cabin slowly transformed into a home. The forest noticed. Birds nested beneath the eaves. Foxes wandered across the clearing without fear. A family of deer often grazed near the garden at sunrise. Unlike people, the wilderness never cared that she was an Omega. One bitterly cold evening near the end of winter, Elara returned home carrying a bundle of firewood across her shoulders. Fresh snow covered the valley. As she reached the porch, something caught her attention. Tiny paw prints. They circled the cabin before disappearing beneath the wooden steps. She carefully set down the firewood and knelt. Hello? No answer. Only silence. She leaned closer. 2 silver eyes slowly emerged from the darkness. A small black wolf. Its fur was matted with melting snow. Its ribs were painfully visible beneath its coat. One front paw trembled every time it tried to shift its weight. The little creature looked too exhausted to run. For several long seconds, neither of them moved. Then Elara quietly stood. She returned inside without another word. The wolf remained hidden. A few minutes later, she came back carrying a wooden bowl filled with warm rabbit stew. She placed it beside the porch. There you go. You look like you need this more than I do. She stepped back several paces. The little wolf watched her carefully. Its nose lifted toward the steam rising from the bowl. Hunger finally defeated caution. Slowly, it limped into the fading light. It began eating so quickly that Elara wondered when it had last found a real meal. When the bowl was empty, the wolf looked up. Its silver eyes met hers across the quiet clearing. No growl. No fear. Only a long, silent stare. Then it disappeared into the forest. Elara picked up the empty bowl and smiled. "See you tomorrow, little one." She believed she was speaking to a lonely wolf that had wandered too far from its family. She had no way of knowing that she had just fed the missing crown prince of the Black Moon Kingdom. Nor could she imagine that one simple bowl of stew would soon change the destiny of an entire kingdom. The little black wolf returned the following evening. Elara noticed it before the sun had fully disappeared behind Frostpine Mountain. A dark shape stood at the edge of the clearing, half hidden between the pine trees. The same silver eyes watched her from the shadows. She had already prepared a second bowl. This time, she added several pieces of roasted rabbit and set it beside the porch before stepping away. "I was hoping you would come back." The wolf remained still. Its injured paw barely touched the ground. For a moment, Elara thought it might retreat into the forest. Then hunger pulled it forward. It crossed the clearing slowly, never taking its eyes off her. Elara sat on the porch steps and kept her hands folded in her lap. The wolf stopped near the bowl. It sniffed the food. Then it looked toward her again. "You can eat. I will stay right here." The creature lowered its head and began devouring the meat. It ate with the same desperate speed as the night before. When the bowl was empty, it stepped backward. Elara expected it to leave. Instead, it sat at the edge of the porch and watched her. The silence between them felt different this time. Less cautious. Almost familiar. She smiled. "I suppose that means you approve of my cooking." One ear twitched. Elara laughed softly. The sound seemed to surprise the wolf. Its head tilted to one side. For the first time in months, her laughter did not echo through an empty clearing. The wolf disappeared before darkness fully settled. But it returned again the next evening. And the evening after that. Soon, Elara began planning every meal around its arrival. If she caught 2 fish, one was set aside. If she cooked rabbit stew, she filled a smaller bowl before serving herself. If supplies were low, she divided what remained into equal portions. The wolf never arrived early. Never stayed after sunrise. Always at sunset. Always alone. Weeks passed. The injured paw slowly healed. The ribs beneath its dark fur became less visible. Its movements grew stronger. Yet something about the creature remained unusual. It understood too much. Whenever Elara spoke, the wolf listened. Whenever she mentioned gathering herbs, it appeared beside the trail the following morning. Whenever danger moved through the forest, it sensed it long before she did. One afternoon, Elara found fresh claw marks near the garden. A mountain bear had wandered through the valley during the night. She inspected the damaged fence. That explains the broken posts. A low growl sounded behind her. The black wolf stood several feet away, staring toward the forest. Its posture changed completely. The gentle animal that accepted food from her porch vanished. In its place stood something fierce. Protective. Commanding. Elara slowly approached. "It is gone now." The wolf continued watching the trees. She rested one hand against its shoulder. The growl faded immediately. "You do not need to protect me." The creature turned toward her. The expression in its silver eyes almost seemed offended. Elara smiled. "Fine. Perhaps I should say thank you." The wolf leaned gently against her hand. That small gesture affected her more deeply than she expected. No one had chosen to remain beside her for a very long time. One evening, a violent storm swept across the mountains. Rain struck the cabin roof with enough force to loosen old wooden shingles. Wind tore branches from the trees. Thunder rolled through the valley. Elara waited beside the window. Sunset came and passed. The wolf did not appear. She placed the untouched bowl near the fireplace. It is safer wherever you are. Another hour passed. Then she heard scratching at the door. Elara rushed across the cabin and pulled it open. The black wolf collapsed across the threshold. Its fur was soaked. Blood darkened one side of its body. Several deep cuts crossed its shoulder. "Oh, moon goddess." She dropped to her knees. "What happened to you?" The wolf attempted to stand. Its legs failed. Elara wrapped both arms around its body and dragged it inside. The creature was far heavier than it looked, but she refused to stop until it rested beside the fireplace. She heated water. Cleaned the wounds. Pressed crushed moonleaf against the torn skin. The wolf trembled but never tried to bite. "Stay with me. You survived the mountains before you found this cabin. You will survive tonight." Its silver eyes remained fixed on her face. Hours passed. Elara replaced blood-soaked bandages. Fed it warm broth one spoonful at a time. Whispered whatever gentle words came to mind. Near dawn, the wolf finally stopped trembling. Its breathing became calm. Elara remained on the floor beside it, too exhausted to move. She rested her head against the wooden chair. Before sleep claimed her, she felt something warm touch her hand. The wolf had placed one paw over her fingers. A faint silver glow moved beneath its fur. Far beyond the cabin, 4 enormous black wolves stood among the rain-soaked trees. Their golden eyes remained fixed on the light inside. One shifted into human form. Commander Rowan lowered his hood. "After 6 months, we found him." Another guardian stared toward the cabin. "Should we take the crown prince home?" Rowan watched Elara sleeping beside the wounded wolf. "Not yet. She is the only reason he is still alive." Spring came slowly to Frostpine Mountain. The snow did not disappear all at once. It softened beneath the afternoon sun. Melted along the edges of the creek. Slipped from pine branches in heavy drops that echoed across the quiet valley. For Elara, the changing season meant longer days. Fresh herbs. Open trails. And the return of color after months of endless white. For the black wolf, it meant strength. The wounds along its shoulder healed without infection. Its limp vanished. Its body grew larger with every passing week. The fragile creature that once hid beneath her porch now moved through the forest with the power of a young alpha. Still, it returned to the cabin every evening. Always before sunset. Always carrying the same silver gaze that seemed far too knowing for an ordinary wolf. Elara had stopped questioning it. Some things did not need explanations to feel real. She began calling him Shadow. Not because he belonged to the darkness. Because he followed her everywhere. When she gathered firewood, he waited beneath the trees. When she searched the creek for fish, he rested on the riverbank. When she walked the narrow mountain trails, he remained close enough that his shoulder sometimes brushed against her hand. "You know, most wolves prefer hunting." Shadow glanced toward her. "Not collecting herbs." His ears twitched. Elara smiled. "Fine. I suppose you are supervising." The wolf released a quiet huff. She laughed. The sound carried through the valley. For months, Elara had spoken mostly to herself. Now someone listened. Even if he answered only with a look. One morning, she traveled toward the eastern ridge in search of silver root. The rare herb grew only between high cliffs where sunlight reached the stone for a few hours each day. Shadow followed without hesitation. The trail became steeper as they climbed. Loose rocks shifted beneath Elara's boots. Wind swept through the narrow pass. Below them, the creek looked like a thin silver thread cutting across the valley. Elara found the silver root near the edge of a rocky ledge. "There you are." She knelt carefully and reached toward the pale leaves. The mountain groaned beneath her. A sharp crack split the air. Shadow's head snapped upward. Elara barely had time to turn before the ground collapsed. The stone beneath her feet broke away. She fell. Her hands clawed at the earth. Fingers caught the edge of the ledge. Her body swung above the ravine. Loose rocks disappeared into the distance below. Shadow rushed forward. Elara tried to pull herself up. The soil crumbled beneath her grip. Shadow, stay back. The wolf ignored her. He lowered his body and seized the back of her cloak between his jaws. The fabric tightened against her throat. His claws dug into the stone. Elara felt herself rise slightly. Then the ledge cracked again. Shadow's front paws slid toward the edge. For one terrible moment, both of them began falling. A deep growl tore from his chest. Not fear. Refusal. His body changed. Only for a heartbeat. Muscles expanded beneath black fur. Silver light flashed through his eyes. The ground beneath his paws fractured as impossible strength surged through him. With one powerful pull, he dragged Elara over the ledge. They collapsed together on solid ground. For several seconds, neither moved. Elara could hear only her own breathing. Then she turned and wrapped both arms around his neck. You saved me. Shadow remained still against her. His heartbeat thundered beneath her hands. She laughed weakly through tears. I suppose I really do need supervision. The wolf pressed his head against her shoulder. Something shifted inside his mind. The scent of stone hulls. Silver banners moving beneath moonlight. A sword placed into his hands. A woman with dark hair calling him by another name. Kale. The memory struck like lightning. Shadow jerked away from Elara. Pain exploded behind his eyes. He stumbled. A low whine escaped his throat. Elara rushed toward him. What is it? She placed both hands against his face. The moment she touched him, the pain softened. His silver eyes opened. For one impossible second, Elara thought she saw a man trapped behind them. Confused. Afraid. Trying desperately to remember. Then the expression vanished. Shadow lowered his head into her palms. It is all right. Whatever happened before you found me. You are safe now. High above the ridge, hidden between the pines, Commander Rowan watched through a brass spyglass. He had seen the silver light. He had felt the surge of royal power. One of the black wolves beside him shifted into human form. His memories are returning. Rowan lowered the spyglass. Slowly. The curse is still fighting him. The guardian looked toward Elara kneeling beside the wolf. She calms it. No. Rowan's expression remained unreadable. She is breaking it. Far away, inside the Black Moon Palace, Regent Darius Voss stood before a wall covered with maps. A scout knelt behind him. The royal black wolves were sighted near Frostpine Mountain. Darius turned slowly. How many? 4. They have remained in the same region for several weeks. The regent studied the northern valleys. The guardians had searched half the kingdom without stopping. They would not remain anywhere without reason. Send riders. Search every cabin. Every cave. Every abandoned road. The scout hesitated. And if we find the prince alive? Darius placed one finger against Frostpine Valley. Then burn everything that proves he survived. That evening, Elara and Shadow returned to the cabin beneath a red sunset. Neither noticed the distant riders crossing the northern pass. Neither heard the first branch snap beyond the far ridge. But Shadow stopped beside the porch. His entire body became still. His silver eyes fixed on the darkening forest. Something dangerous had entered the mountains. And it was searching for them. Shadow barely touched the food that evening. The bowl remained half full beside the porch. He stood at the edge of the clearing with his ears raised toward the northern ridge. His body was tense. Every instinct warned him that danger had crossed into the valley. Elara noticed immediately. You have been acting strangely all day. The wolf did not look at her. His silver eyes never left the dark forest. She followed his gaze. The trees appeared perfectly still. Only the evening wind moved through the branches. There is nothing there. A low growl rumbled deep inside Shadow's chest. Not loud. Not threatening. A warning. Elara had learned to trust his instincts. She quietly picked up the bowl and carried it inside. Tonight feels different. The fireplace burned warmly inside the cabin. Rain clouds gathered above the mountains. Thunder echoed somewhere beyond the distant peaks. Elara closed the wooden shutters before placing another log onto the fire. Shadow lay beside the door instead of the hearth. Watching. Waiting. Hours passed. Just after midnight, he suddenly stood. His head snapped toward the eastern window. The growl returned. This time louder. Then came the sound. A single branch breaking somewhere beyond the trees. Another. Then another. Someone was moving through the forest. Not one person. Many. Elara extinguished the lantern. The cabin fell into darkness. She whispered. Hunters? Shadow remained completely still. His breathing slowed. Every muscle tightened. Outside, several dark figures appeared between the pines. They carried bows. Curved swords. Black cloaks that blended perfectly with the night. One man knelt near the edge of the clearing. Fresh footprints. A woman lives here. Another crouched beside the vegetable garden. And a wolf. Large. Recently transformed from winter coat. The leader slowly raised one hand. Spread out. Search everything. Leave no witnesses. Shadow's eyes widened. The words awakened another fragment of memory. Fire. Blood. Masked assassins. A palace corridor. Someone shouting. Protect the crown prince. Pain exploded inside his head. He staggered backward. Elara caught him before he collapsed. Shadow. Stay with me. His breathing became uneven. Silver light flickered beneath his fur. Only for an instant. Outside, one of the mercenaries noticed. Did you see that? The leader immediately turned toward the cabin. Move. Now. The front door exploded inward. Wood splintered across the floor. 3 mercenaries rushed inside. Elara instinctively stepped in front of Shadow. Please. Take whatever you want. There is nothing valuable here. The leader smiled coldly. We didn't come for valuables. His eyes shifted toward the black wolf. We came for him. Before another word could be spoken, Shadow lunged. His speed stunned every attacker. The first mercenary crashed through the broken doorway before he could even raise his sword. The second was thrown across the cabin. The third fled outside in panic. The clearing erupted into chaos. Arrows flew through the darkness. Shadow dodged with impossible agility. Every movement carried the instinct of a trained warrior rather than a wild animal. The mercenaries quickly realized they were facing something far beyond an ordinary wolf. Circle him. Do not let him escape. More attackers emerged from the trees. Nearly 30. Elara's heart sank. There were too many. She grabbed a pouch from the shelf beside the fireplace. Ground moonleaf. Wild pepper. Crushed frost moss. With one swift motion, she threw the mixture into the nearest fire. A thick cloud of white smoke burst through the cabin. The wind carried it directly toward the attackers. Several mercenaries began coughing violently. They covered their eyes. I can't see. Fall back. Shadow seized the opportunity. He knocked 2 more men aside before returning to Elara. Go. She understood immediately. Without hesitation, they fled through the rear door into the forest. Behind them, angry voices echoed through the valley. After them. Don't let them reach the mountains. Elara ran harder than she ever had before. Branches tore at her clothes. Cold air burned inside her lungs. Shadow remained beside her every step of the way. Then 4 powerful howls echoed across Frostpine Mountain. Deep. Ancient. Commanding. The pursuing mercenaries stopped instantly. Every face turned toward the ridge. 4 enormous black wolves emerged from the darkness. Their golden eyes reflected the moonlight. Silver royal crests gleamed around their necks. The valley became completely silent. Commander Rowan stepped forward from between the wolves. His gaze settled first on Shadow. Then on Elara. At last. We found you, Your Highness. Commander Rowan remained on one knee. Behind him, the 4 royal black wolves lowered their heads towards Shadow with absolute respect. The mercenaries stood frozen. Confusion spread through their ranks. One of them whispered, Your Highness? The words echoed through Shadow's mind. Another memory surfaced. A royal training yard. Hundreds of soldiers saluting. A silver crown resting upon black velvet. A man's voice. One day, all of this will be yours, Kale. Pain exploded through his skull. He staggered backward. Silver light pulsed beneath his dark fur. Elara immediately moved beside him. Shadow. Look at me. You're safe. The wolf turned toward her. The fear in his silver eyes was no longer that of an animal. It belonged to someone trapped between 2 lives. Commander Rowan slowly stood. Forgive me. But we no longer have time. The enemy has already found this valley. Another howl echoed from the western ridge. One of the royal black wolves shifted into human form before landing beside Rowan. Commander. More riders are approaching. At least 60. Rowan nodded once. Then we move now. The mercenary captain suddenly laughed. You aren't going anywhere. He raised his sword. Archers. Loose. Dozens of arrows darkened the night sky. Before Elara could react, the 4 royal black wolves leaped forward together. Their massive bodies intercepted nearly every arrow. The few that broke through were deflected by Rowan's spinning blade. Advance. The guardians charged. What followed lasted less than a minute. The mercenaries had expected frightened villagers. Instead, they faced the king's elite protectors. One attacker fell after another. Those who attempted to flee were surrounded before reaching the trees. The valley grew silent once more. Only the sound of heavy breathing remained. Rowan wiped the blood from his sword before approaching Shadow again. Your Highness. Please come home. Shadow looked at him without recognition. Then toward Elara. He took 2 slow steps until he stood beside her. His choice was unmistakable. Rowan watched quietly. Even without his memories. He still chooses the one who saved him. A gentle voice interrupted. Then perhaps we should ask the one he trusts. Everyone turned toward Elara. Commander Rowan lowered his head respectfully. Miss Ashwood. I owe you an explanation. He removed the silver crest fastened to his cloak. This emblem belongs only to the royal black wolves. We exist for one purpose. To protect the royal bloodline. 6 months ago, Crown Prince Kale Draven disappeared after an assassination attempt inside the palace. We searched every province. Every border. Every mountain. We found nothing. Until now. Elara slowly looked at Shadow. No. She shook her head. He's just a lonely wolf. He was. Rowan answered quietly. Because dark magic stripped away his memories and trapped him in this form. The wolf lowered his head. Fragments returned again. Fire. Poison. A collapsing palace corridor. Someone calling him Prince Kale. Then another memory. A warm bowl of stew placed quietly beside a wooden porch. The smell of herbs drying from the ceiling. A gentle voice saying the same words every evening. Eat first. You can be afraid later. The silver light surrounding him suddenly intensified. The wind circled the clearing. Moonlight poured through the clouds above. His body began to change. Bones shifted. Muscles expanded. Black fur dissolved into countless strands of silver light. Elara stepped back in astonishment. The transformation continued until a man collapsed onto the forest floor. Tall. Powerfully built. His raven-black hair lay across the fallen leaves. Ancient scars marked his shoulders. His chest rose and fell with slow, uneven breaths. Commander Rowan immediately knelt. Welcome home, Crown Prince Kale. The man's silver eyes slowly opened. They searched the unfamiliar faces surrounding him. The soldiers. The forest. The stars above. Finally. They stopped on Elara. Recognition appeared before memory. He whispered only one word. Elara. She fell to her knees beside him. You remember me? Not everything. His voice was weak. But I remember. You never let me go hungry. Tears filled her eyes. You remembered the important part. For the first time in 6 months, Commander Rowan smiled. Then his expression hardened again. He looked toward the northern ridge. Torchlights. Dozens of them. More riders had entered the valley. Rowan sheathed his sword. We have no time left. The regent already knows where to find you. If we remain here until sunrise, he won't send mercenaries again. He'll send an army. They departed before the first light of dawn. A cold mist drifted through Frostpine Valley as Elara stood outside the cabin one final time. The porch where she had shared countless quiet evenings with Shadow. The herb garden she had planted beside the fence. The small window where warm firelight had once welcomed him home every sunset. She memorized every detail. Not because she feared forgetting. Because she knew she might never see it again. Kale walked quietly to her side. He had borrowed a simple black traveling cloak from Commander Rowan. Without the royal armor or ceremonial clothing, he looked almost like the man who had once slept beside her fireplace. You don't have to leave because of me. Elara smiled gently. I made that choice the day I left my old pack. Home is not a place. It's where I choose to stay. Kale looked toward the cabin. Then back at her. Thank you. Not for saving a prince. For saving the man before anyone remembered he was one. Elara lowered her eyes. I only fed someone who looked hungry. That is exactly why you saved me. Commander Rowan approached with 5 horses already prepared. We should leave. Our scouts report movement on every northern trail. The regent is closing the mountain passes. The journey south took 2 days. The royal black wolves traveled without stopping except to water the horses. They avoided villages. Crossed forgotten forest roads. Rested only beneath abandoned watchtowers where no strangers would recognize the missing crown prince. Along the way, fragments of Kale's memory continued returning. Sometimes he remembered the palace library. Sometimes the training grounds. Sometimes only scattered faces whose names remained just beyond reach. One evening, while camped beside a mountain river, he stared silently into the fire. Elara noticed. Another memory? He nodded. A banquet. Someone offered me wine. After that. Nothing. Commander Rowan looked up immediately. The Winter Council. The assassination began there. Kale closed his eyes. I remember someone warning me. A woman. She told me not to drink. Who? I can't see her face. The memory disappears every time I reach it. Rowan frowned. Then whoever tried to save your highness may still be alive. Or Someone silenced her before she could speak. The thought settled heavily over the camp. Far away inside the Black Moon Palace, Regent Darius stood before the royal council. The Crown Prince lives. The announcement sent whispers through the chamber. Several nobles exchanged relieved smiles. Others looked stunned. Darius slowly raised one hand. Unfortunately, he has returned under the influence of an unknown Mountain Omega whose motives remain unclear. Lord Cedric Beaumont frowned. What are you suggesting? Only caution. 6 months with no witnesses. No explanation. Then suddenly the heir returns beside a woman of unknown origin. Surely the council deserves answers before surrendering the kingdom. Seeds of doubt spread exactly as Darius intended. No accusations. Only questions. Questions were often more dangerous than lies. Late on the second afternoon, the travelers reached the highest ridge overlooking the capital. Elara stopped her horse. The Black Moon Kingdom stretched across the valley below. Massive walls surrounded the city. Silver banners flew above towering gates. The royal palace rose proudly at its center, its black stone towers shining beneath the afternoon sun. She had never imagined anything so magnificent. Cale guided his horse beside hers. Beautiful, isn't it? It's enormous. When I was little, I believed the palace was the whole world. Now? Now I know my world began in a little cabin beneath Frostpine Mountain. Elara looked at him in surprise. You still remember that? I remember enough. He smiled warmly. I remember waiting every evening for someone to place a bowl of stew beside the porch. I remember believing the safest place in the kingdom was beside your fireplace. And I remember the first person who ever saw me. Not as a prince. Not as a future king. Just as someone who needed kindness. Before Elara could answer, one of the royal black wolves rode swiftly back from the front of the column. Commander. The western gate has been opened. The entire capital already knows the crown prince has returned. Rows of citizens are gathering along the royal avenue. Commander Rowan drew a slow breath. Then the moment we have prepared for has arrived. He looked toward Cale. From the moment you enter those gates, every friend will reveal themselves. Every enemy will do the same. The city gates opened before the royal procession reached them. Rows of royal guards stood at attention along the grand avenue. Their polished black armor reflected the afternoon sun. As Cale rode through the gates, the captain of the guard struck his fist against his chest. Welcome home, Your Highness. The gesture spread like a wave. Hundreds of soldiers followed. Then thousands of citizens lining the streets bowed together. The crown prince has returned. The words echoed through the capital. Flowers filled the air. Children ran alongside the procession. Old veterans lowered their banners with tears in their eyes. Elara had never witnessed so many people gathered in one place. She held the reins a little tighter. Every eye seemed to follow her. At first, the people smiled. Then the whispers began. Who is she? She isn't wearing a noble crest. Why is she riding beside the crown prince? She looks like an Omega. The familiar feeling returned. Not fear. Recognition. Different city. Different faces. The same quiet judgment. Cale noticed without looking directly at her. Ride beside me. She guided her horse closer. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. If I allow them to question your place beside me today, they will question your worth for the rest of your life. His voice remained calm. You stood beside me when I had nothing. Now I stand beside you when I have everything. Elara looked forward. For the first time since entering the capital, she sat a little straighter. At the top of the palace steps waited Princess Celine. The moment she saw Cale, she abandoned every trace of royal formality and hurried down the staircase. Brother. She embraced him tightly. For several long moments, neither spoke. Months of fear disappeared in quiet relief. I thought I had lost you forever. You almost did. Celine stepped back and smiled through tears. Then she turned toward Elara. So you're the woman everyone keeps talking about. Elara lowered her head politely. Your Highness. Instead of accepting the formal greeting, Celine gently took both of her hands. No. Today I'm simply a sister thanking the person who brought my family back. Elara tried to answer. No words came. Commander Rowan finally stepped forward. Your Highness. The council has already assembled. They are waiting in the great chamber. Kale nodded. Then let's not keep them waiting. The council chamber was magnificent. A circular room carved from polished black stone. Silver moon symbols decorated the ceiling. 24 high-backed chairs surrounded a massive round table. Every seat was occupied. Noble families. Military commanders. Provincial alphas. Senior advisors. At the head of the chamber stood Regent Darius Voss. He smiled the moment Kale entered. Kale. Welcome home. His voice carried warmth. His eyes did not. You have been greatly missed. Kale stopped several feet away. Thank you for governing during my absence. Only until my king returned. Darius bowed with flawless elegance. No one unfamiliar with him would have suspected a single hidden intention. His gaze slowly shifted toward Elara. And this young woman? Kale answered immediately. Her name is Elara Ashwood. She saved my life. Several council members exchanged surprised looks. An Omega? Lord Cedric Beaumont leaned forward. Forgive me, Your Highness. But palace security requires us to know everyone attending royal proceedings. Of course. Kale's expression never changed. Then let the record show that without Elara Ashwood, there would be no crown prince sitting before this council today. Silence settled across the chamber. Lord Cedric folded his hands. No one questions her kindness. But many will question her influence. Another noble spoke. The kingdom has not seen its heir for 6 months. Now he returns accompanied by a woman no one has ever met. People will ask questions. Kale looked around the table. Then let them ask me. Not her. Regent Darius slowly smiled. No one wishes to insult Miss Ashwood. We merely have a responsibility to protect the stability of the kingdom. Sometimes public perception can be delicate. Elara finally spoke. If my presence creates problems, I can leave. Kale turned toward her immediately. No. Before anyone else could speak, Princess Celine rose from her chair. Perhaps we should remember one simple truth. Every person in this room failed to find the crown prince. She did not. Another heavy silence filled the chamber. Darius calmly folded his hands behind his back. An admirable point. Which is precisely why I believe tomorrow's banquet will answer many questions. Let the kingdom meet the woman who saved its future king. His smile widened ever so slightly. After all, the truth has nothing to fear. Across the room, Commander Rowan watched the regent carefully. He had guarded Kale since childhood. He knew that smile. It was never a sign of welcome. It was the smile Darius wore whenever every piece of his plan had already been placed on the board. The royal banquet began as the sun disappeared beyond the western towers. Hundreds of crystal chandeliers illuminated the grand hall with warm golden light. Long tables overflowed with roasted venison, fresh bread, mountain trout, rare fruits, and silver goblets filled with sparkling wine. Musicians played softly beneath towering stained-glass windows depicting the history of the Black Moon Kingdom. Every noble family had accepted the invitation. Not because they wished to celebrate. Because every one of them wanted to see the mysterious Omega who had returned beside the crown prince. Elara entered quietly. She wore a simple silver gown chosen by Princess Celine. No jewels adorned her neck. No diamonds rested in her hair. Only a small moonflower embroidered near her shoulder. She looked elegant without trying to appear powerful. Exactly the way she preferred. The conversations inside the hall slowly faded. Every pair of eyes followed her. Some with curiosity. Some with admiration. Many with doubt. Lord Cedric Beaumont approached first. He bowed politely. "Miss Ashwood. Allow me to welcome you to the royal palace." "Thank you. I appreciate your kindness." His smile remained courteous. "You must forgive the kingdom. People often struggle to accept sudden change. Especially when that change arrives from outside noble society." Elara answered calmly. Kindness has never asked where someone was born. Several nearby nobles quietly exchanged glances. The answer was gentle, yet impossible to argue against. At the far end of the hall, Regent Darius watched every conversation unfold. Everything was progressing exactly as he intended. The more attention focused on Elara, the easier it would become to turn public opinion against her. A servant quietly approached him. "Everything is prepared." Darius accepted a crystal goblet without taking his eyes off the room. "Good. Wait for my signal." Meanwhile, Kale greeted military commanders returning from distant provinces. Many embraced him openly. Others simply bowed with visible relief. Every conversation ended the same way. "We never stopped searching." Kale answered each one sincerely. "I know. And I will never forget it." Princess Celine eventually guided Elara toward a balcony overlooking the palace gardens. "You handled yourself well." I only answered honestly. "Exactly." Celine smiled. "That is something this palace has been missing for a very long time." Below them, fountains shimmered beneath the moonlight. The gardens looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Commander Rowan stepped onto the balcony. His expression immediately caught Kale's attention. "Report. One of our scouts intercepted another courier." The message was hidden inside the saddle. Rowan handed over a folded document. Kale opened it. Only 4 lines had been written. "The tunnels are ready. The council will fall tonight. The moon thrown before midnight." No signature. No seal. None was necessary. Kale folded the message. "Begin phase 2. Rowan nodded once before disappearing into the palace. Elara quietly looked toward Kale. "Something is happening." "Yes." He offered no further explanation. Not because he doubted her. Because he hoped to keep her away from whatever was coming. Moments later, the ceremonial bells echoed through the palace. A royal herald stepped into the center of the grand hall. "By order of the royal council, the moon coronation of Crown Prince Kale Draven shall begin immediately." Guests rose from their seats. The great doors leading toward the coronation hall slowly opened. Hundreds of nobles followed the royal procession beneath towering stone arches. The sacred moon tree shimmered softly at the far end of the chamber. Moonlight poured through the crystal ceiling above it. Everything appeared exactly as tradition demanded. Only a handful of people noticed the faint vibration beneath the marble floor. Elara felt it first. She stopped walking. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" Princess Celine asked. "A distant sound. Almost like stone moving. Far below the palace. Hidden beneath centuries-old foundations." The first ancient tunnel door slowly opened. Shadow Feng assassins emerged from the darkness one by one. Their black armor absorbed every trace of light. Poison blades reflected the glow of enchanted crystals lining the underground passage. The commander of the assassins slowly raised one hand. No voices. No hesitation. Only a single silent order. "Advance." Above them, the future Alpha King walked toward the moon throne. Below them, death was already climbing toward the palace. The first scream echoed through the coronation hall. A section of the marble floor exploded upward. Stone shattered across the chamber. Hidden doors that had remained sealed for centuries burst open beneath the moon throne. Shadow Feng assassins poured from the darkness. Black armor. Poisoned blades. Perfect discipline. Everything happened in seconds. Protect the royal family. Commander Rowan's voice thundered across the hall. The royal black wolves moved instantly. Shield formations surrounded the civilians. Archers stationed along the upper galleries released their first volley. Several assassins fell before reaching the staircase. More emerged from the tunnels. The battle had begun. Panic swept through the nobles. Some fled toward the exits. Others froze where they stood. Princess Celine climbed onto the lowest step of the throne platform. Everyone stay together. Move toward the eastern gallery. Do not separate. Her calm voice cut through the chaos. Royal guards immediately began escorting families toward safety. Kale drew his sword. Silver moonlight reflected along its polished blade. His gaze searched the battlefield. Not for enemies. For Elara. He found her near the western aisle helping an elderly noblewoman trapped beneath a fallen marble pillar. Leave me. The old woman struggled to breathe. Save yourself. Elara shook her head. No one gets left behind. She knelt beside the broken stone. Two frightened servants hurried over. Together. Push when I count. 1, 2, 3. The pillar shifted just enough for the woman to crawl free. Before Elara could stand, a Shadow Feng assassin rushed toward her. His poisoned dagger flashed through the air. A massive black wolf intercepted him. The royal black wolf slammed into the attacker with enough force to send him crashing through a stone column. Another assassin lunged immediately afterward. Commander Rowan appeared beside Elara. His sword moved once. The assassin collapsed before completing the attack. Miss Ashwood. You must leave the hall. What about everyone else? We protect the kingdom. You protect yourself. She looked around. Children cried beside overturned tables. Several servants carried the wounded towards safety. Smoke drifted through the broken ceiling. Elara quietly removed the medical satchel hanging across her shoulder. Then I can still help. Without waiting for permission, she hurried toward the injured. She tore strips from her own gown to stop bleeding. Applied crushed moonleaf to poisoned wounds. Comforted frightened children separated from their parents. Everywhere she went, panic slowly gave way to hope. Kale watched from across the hall. Even surrounded by chaos, she chose compassion first. Just as she always had. A thunderous laugh echoed beneath the palace. Regent Darius slowly descended from the throne platform. His ceremonial robes remained untouched despite the battle surrounding him. How disappointing. I expected more resistance. Kale stepped forward. So it was you. Darius smiled. Did you truly believe 6 months of planning would end with a debate inside the council chamber? He slowly raised one hand. The remaining assassins immediately retreated. Not from fear. From obedience. Every Shadow Feng warrior formed a circle around the throne. Darius looked toward the gathered nobles. Witness carefully. History remembers only the victor. He reached inside his robes. When his hand emerged, it held a black crystal pulsing with crimson light. Royal physician Eldrick froze. Impossible. The blood moon core. Several elderly nobles stepped backward in horror. That relic had been destroyed generations ago. Apparently. The stories were exaggerated. Darius closed his fingers around the crystal. Dark energy erupted across the chamber. The stained glass ceiling shattered. Every candle was extinguished. Cold wind roared through the hall. Black smoke wrapped around Darius's body. His bones cracked. His muscles expanded. Crimson light spread through every vein. The transformation was unlike any werewolf shift ever witnessed. It was violent. Corrupted. Unnatural. Within moments, an enormous wolf stood where the regent had been. Its fur was darker than midnight. Its eyes burned with crimson fire. Its claws carved deep trenches into solid marble. The creature roared. The sound shook the entire palace. Several guards collapsed to one knee. Even experienced warriors struggled to remain standing. Only Kale continued walking forward. The sacred moon tree suddenly answered. Every silver leaf burst into radiant light. Ancient roots spread beneath the broken floor. Moonlight descended through the shattered ceiling and surrounded Kale. The last fragments of the curse vanished from his body. Every scar faded. Every remaining shadow dissolved into silver light. Elara looked toward him. Their eyes met across the battlefield. Months ago, she had placed a bowl of warm stew beside a lonely cabin. Now she watched that same quiet soul step forward to defend an entire kingdom. Silver light erupted around Kale. His body transformed beneath the blessing of the sacred moon tree. When the light faded, the royal alpha wolf stood beneath the glowing branches. Black fur shimmered with silver along every edge. His eyes reflected the full moon itself. The entire hall fell silent. For the first time since the battle began, fear appeared in Darius's crimson eyes. The corrupted wolf attacked with a deafening roar. Darkness crashed against moonlight beneath the sacred moon tree. The force of the collision shattered the remaining marble surrounding the moon throne. Every warrior stepped back. None dared interfere. This battle belonged to only two wolves. Darius fought with desperate fury. The blood moon core had transformed him into something far beyond an ordinary alpha. Every swing of his claws left black scars across the stone floor. Every roar carried enough force to shake the palace walls. Kale answered with calm precision. He did not fight for revenge. He fought to protect. Whenever Darius tried to force the battle toward the frightened civilians, Kale drove him back toward the center of the hall. Commander Rowan watched with quiet pride. That is our king. Not because he is stronger. Because even now, he refuses to sacrifice a single innocent life. Darius lunged again. His crimson claws struck Kale across the shoulder. Instead of blood, silver light burst from the wound. The sacred moon tree answered. Its ancient roots erupted from beneath the floor. They wrapped around Darius's legs. The corrupted wolf tore through the first roots with raw strength. More emerged. Thicker. Brighter. Older than the kingdom itself. Moonlight spread through every strand of twisted darkness surrounding him. The corruption began to crack. No. Darius struggled violently. I built this kingdom. I ruled this kingdom. It belongs to me. Kale stepped forward. A kingdom never belongs to the wolf who fears losing it. It belongs to the wolves who believe it is worth protecting. With a final roar, Darius charged. Kale met him beneath the glowing branches of the sacred moon tree. Silver light exploded across the coronation hall. The darkness surrounding Darius shattered into thousands of black fragments before dissolving into the night air. The blood moon core was gone. The corrupted wolf collapsed. Moments later, Darius lay upon the broken marble in human form. Weak. Broken. Defeated. Commander Rowan approached with the royal black wolves. The former regent reached toward a fallen dagger. Kale shifted back into human form and calmly placed his foot over the weapon. It ends here. Darius looked up. You should kill me. Every king before you would have. Kale remained silent for a long moment. Then he slowly shook his head. If I become the man you wanted me to be, then you win. Justice will decide your fate. Not vengeance. Royal guards stepped forward and placed Darius in chains. Across the hall, the surviving Shadow Fang assassins lowered their weapons. One after another. Steel struck the marble floor. The battle was over. Silence filled the palace. Then a single silver leaf drifted from the sacred moon tree. It floated gently through the air. Past the shattered throne. Past the kneeling royal black wolves. Past every noble who had doubted an Omega's worth. The glowing leaf settled softly into Elara's open hand. Royal physician Eldrick smiled through tears. The sacred moon tree has rendered its judgment. It has accepted both the ruler and the heart that preserved him. The entire hall turned toward Elara. She looked only at Kale. He walked across the ruined chamber until he stood before her. Months ago, I arrived at your cabin with nothing. No name. No memories. No future. You never asked who I was. You only asked whether I was hungry. His voice carried through the silent hall. Every lesson I needed to become a king began beside your fireplace. Not inside this palace. He gently took her hand. Before this kingdom. Before my family. Before the moon goddess herself. I ask only one question. Elara Ashwood. Will you stand beside me as my equal and help me build a kingdom where compassion is valued above rank? Tears filled her eyes. For years she had believed her story ended the day she was rejected beneath the sacred moon tree. Instead, it had only begun. She smiled. Yes. Not because you are my king. Because you are still the same soul who waited patiently beside my porch every evening. The sacred moon tree burst into full bloom. Thousands of silver blossoms drifted through the palace like falling stars. Moonlight bathed the coronation hall. Every noble. Every soldier. Every citizen watching from beyond the palace gates witnessed the same miracle. Princess Celine stepped forward carrying the ancient silver crown. By the blessing of the sacred moon tree. By the will of the people. And by the blood of the royal line. I proclaim Kale Draven the rightful Alpha King of the Black Moon Kingdom. She placed the crown upon his head. The hall erupted with thunderous applause. Kale raised one hand. The celebration slowly quieted. Today I make my first royal decree. From this day forward, no wolf within this kingdom shall be judged by birth before character. An Omega may rise through courage. A commoner may earn honor through kindness. Every child will have the right to choose their own future. Because strength without compassion creates tyrants. Compassion guided by strength creates peace. No one objected. Many lowered their heads in quiet shame. Others smiled with genuine hope. Months later, craftsmen rebuilt a small cabin in Frostpine Valley. Not upon the ashes of Elara's original home. Beside it, the old cabin remained untouched. Its weathered porch. Its leaning chimney. Its tiny herb garden. A reminder that the future of an entire kingdom had begun with nothing more than a lonely Omega, a bowl of warm stew, and a starving black wolf who had quietly wandered out of the snow. And every winter, before the first snowfall covered the valley, Kale and Elara placed a fresh bowl of warm food on the porch. Not because they expected another lost wolf to appear. But because the smallest act of kindness, offered without expecting anything in return, had once changed the destiny of a kingdom forever.